and you're going to have to use your imagination on this one. I found all the equipment here at the club to come up with a track plan that could work for this area. Let's take a look. Okay, so it's a bit bright, but here you can see one of the original track plans. Ray, can't remember his name. One of the members came up with this plan, and it's very yard heavy because there's like several tracks of yard in here. How much classification is going to be done with the minimal industry we have here? And we have so many tracks, more yards, and then even Pinehurst has lots of tracks. So we have tracks. Do we need more track? Well, my recommendation for the branch line and the narrow gauge is that we do maintain the roundhouse, because that's something pretty to see. We maintain some engine servicing facilities. There is like a standard gauge delivery that comes in off the dual gauge. That's cool. That'd be fine. But this whole yard area, let's take this area and let's make some really cool, highly detailed Campbell kits and kind of put in this area and, make it more scenic. We don't need another goddamn yard. My personal opinion. Come on, guys. Let's put in some industries, and we can do some classification on the run like they did in the old days, and I think that would be a lot better. So that's Rockdale Junction here, and the old plan used to be a big yard here, which was dumb, because we have a yard, we have Pinehurst. Just too many yards, people. Too many yards, and not enough industries. Because in order to switch cars, you need a place to spot cars. You need industries for spotting. Otherwise, why have a yard? A yard serves no purpose. A yard to nowhere. So we have the show loop here. The show loop goes around the layout, underneath, goes all the way around the other side, comes all the way around again, and then comes back. So that's what we call the show loop. And in our lore, we call it the show valley with an E. So that's the show loop. But we don't have any passing sidings on it. So the narrow gauge and standard gauge trains that run on this are very short. So there's room here to put a switch. This is all just mocked up again. And so we could have a passing siding here with a spur. I'll talk more about that. Right here. So that's enough room to park two trains, one going clockwise, the other one going counterclockwise. That's counterclockwise, that's clockwise. So that's cool. That gives us some opportunities we never had before. This is the grade coming from the lumber mill. Very steep grade. Okay, so that comes in and ties in back there. This switch here is a spur that goes out to the turntable, because we've always wanted a small dinky turntable, not a engine storage facility. A turntable is just for turning a locomotive and sending it back on its way. But we have the real estate. We could put two maintenance tracks on there, so you could have two engines there, one engine there, one on the table, spin it around, send it back on its way. This could be coaling and water, fuel, and again, maintenance back there. So nice, compact, really small, because it's narrow gauge. It doesn't need that much. Now this one spur is kind of interesting, because backing up here. So we have the passing siding here. And again, narrow gauge trains are not that big, they're this big. So they're shorter. So could be very interesting. We could leave this as a dual gauge spur, and we can put a standard gauge industry on this side, and we could put maybe 1 or 2 narrow gauge industries on this side, and we can detail that up. So this may not be the exact spot, we might move that around, figure that out, but that gives us some options. It's kind of cool because you'd have a standard gauge cars and some narrow gauge cars, and when guests come and go, what's going on there, we can explain the difference between standard gauge and narrow gauge. All right, let's continue our adventure. So we start back here at the siding. We go through past the siding, past the roundhouse switch, past the grade switch. And now this would kind of hug the cliff around there, and it would come all the way around, and it comes up to this special switch. Now this switch is labeled 260 because in our plan, it is a dual gauge switch to standard gauge. So it was actually custom modified because as it switches off, wherever we put this, we put it here or back there. Where that comes off this is the standard gauge, and that goes to the interchange tracks, which is right here. This is the Highland Pacific interchange. And then this is like an engine storage track for helpers or for the standard gauge here. So that could be like their little maintenance track. This is the show loop, and it's also the bottom part of the Y, which we've talked about before. So this part here, again, this would come this way. Dual gauge comes around. The dual gauge would hit another switch here, and this is another special piece of track. This is dual gauge to narrow. So that's a dual gauge to narrow. See, we had all this planned. Not in this position, but we had the concept plan. So that's why those switch machines are cut. So that would go off and then go into the narrow gauge storage yard, which we've talked about, and the Y. So this is part of the Y. So what we could also do, because opportunity allows us, and now we have much more space, we can take a single spur and come off of here, and we can actually end it right here and put one little industry here. Or we could take figure out where we want to put this, a little narrow gauge switch, and we can have two little spurs at the end. So we could have 2 industries or 1 industry and maybe a team track for loading cars, which would be better. So we could have a box car, and flat cars for loading stuff. That would look pretty good. So that gives us a lot of switching opportunity, and it gives us a reverse where you have to get around it. That means you're going to need a passing siding, which, guess what? We just so happen to have. So that allows us to do our runarounds and to meet our switching. So that gives us a lot more capability in a lot less track than yard. I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. So let's do it. Let's come up with some modern scenery options for the east side of the layout. Let's just make it beautiful